you been doing everything right, following a specific meal guide to a T, never missing a workout, counting your calories like crazy, and then you're wondering, why is nothing happening? In fact, I think I'm actually gaining weight. I'm becoming more exhausted. My sleep is getting worse. The harder I try, the worse things get for me. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I cut out the extra sugar. I'm not putting creamer in my coffee. I started this brand new nutrition plan that so-and-so recommended and swore it worked for her, but it is not doing squat for me. Where am I going wrong? I used to be able to lose weight really fast. I used to be able to do XYZ and see this result, and now nothing's happening for me. What is wrong with my body? So many women have the same question, the same complaint, the same issue again and again, and oftentimes we are just told to eat less and move more. And for a lot of gals that when we're in our 40s and, knocking on perimenopause's door, or maybe we've walked through it already, your body metabolically changes. And it's so important to understand that there's different things you need to do to work with the new body that you're living in. It's not that you're doing the wrong things or that there's something wrong with your body or that you're broken, and you're not crazy for feeling like this. The meat suit that you live in changes when your hormones shift and change throughout your life. And this is not just aging or getting older. Your body shifts and changes. It changes its priority in terms of storing energy versus using it. It changes things like how you process carbohydrates in your gut, not related to how much or how little carb you actually eat. It is actually the inside of your system that changes. And once we realize, I need to shift or change or do this or that to align with what my body's actually doing, it makes all the difference in the world. So welcome back to the Female Health Solution Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Beth Westy, women's health and hormone expert, and I am so dang excited to dive into this episode today because this is one of the main things that women really struggle with. And this is something that, again, you can feel like no one understands this. My husband is trying to be supportive, but he just keeps telling me to go to the gym more. Do I need to do 2 workouts a day? Or there's this other major intense, workout program for 75 days. Do I need to put myself through that? Or I put myself through that already and it didn't do squat for me. What the heck? Your body's not broken. It just changed hormonally, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. So let's dive into the specific thing with perimenopause and how this changes carbohydrates. Now, I don't want this to be sort of a Debbie Downer type of thing and be like, man, I guess I can't eat carbs anymore. Not true. Please, the female body does need carbohydrate. It responds way better when it has the right amount of carbohydrate, etc. So we want to understand, though, how your body handles the carbohydrate piece of it, because it changes. It's just different than what it used to be. So let's talk about insulin, glucose and insulin, and the relationship between the two. Now, normally when you eat any type of carbohydrate, your blood sugar rises. That's what happens. You eat the food internally. Now, can your blood sugar increase from other reasons? Yes, but we can talk about that later. But typically this is what it is. You eat food, blood sugar rises, and then your pancreas, which is an organ that sits kind of on the left side of your torso there, it releases insulin. Now, the insulin is a hormone, and it's insulin's job to take sugar out of the bloodstream and put it in the cells where it actually gets to be used for energy. But if it's not used, and your body your cells don't need that energy to be burned for anything, your body then is supposed to take, the insulin is supposed to take that glucose, that sugar, and store it for later. Okay, great. So when that's working really, really smoothly, and there's a good balance between sugar, the glucose, and insulin, that means that your body is able to use that energy when it needs to and store it to be used later when you need it. Oh, that sounds so great. That sounds so great to have a backup. Oh, there's extra around if I need it. Yes, wonderful. But what happens if your body actually never gets to the backup? And your body says, you know what? Actually, we're just going to focus on storing more and more and more and more. Because, fun fact, insulin is a fat storage hormone. And when insulin is really high, your body is really locked in a storage mode. It becomes very difficult to access and then utilize the energy that is within your own fat cells. And the common phrasing that people will use is to say, I'm going to burn fat, burn fat. Just as a clarification, when people say things like that, we're talking about utilizing the energy within the actual cell. Your fat, when we talk about adipose tissue, fat cells, they're very dynamic. They're very dynamic. They serve a big purpose in our body. They can contribute to inflammation responses and all of that. But their main job is to store energy for when we need it later. And there's different places in our body that, stores the fat more. Again, saying stores fat. The fat cells that you have, you're sort of born with. Your fat cells, the number doesn't really change that much. Aside from brown fat and everything, which is more prominent in babies, but that's a whole separate conversation too. We're talking about the two main types of fat or adipose tissue, fat tissue on the female body, and you've got subcutaneous and then visceral. Subcutaneous is like the fat that's underneath your skin. So if you my legs, have fat, my arms, that type of a thing, there's that. But belly fat, that's the visceral fat. That's fat around your organs, and that fat is actually related to more the insulin resistance and everything else. And usually estrogen is related to adding that fat. And again, even I say it like that. You add fat to your hips and thighs. And cortisol and blood sugar dysregulation, insulin resistance is related to fat, that visceral fat, the belly fat. But keep in mind, the way we think of it is you are adding fat and decreasing fat. You don't actually get more cells or less cells. Unless you're getting like liposuction or something, then that removes the cells from your body. Other than that, the fat cells themselves, you have the same number. They just will blow up like a balloon if you're storing a lot in there, or they'll shrink because you used the energy from them. That's it. So keep in mind, again, the phrasing of this, and I want to explain this just to make it abundantly clear that the way we even talk about it can be confusing, because people say, oh, well, just, I want to target my fat. I want to target my fat. I'm like, okay. But technically it's the energy within the fat cell. You're not going to get rid of the fat cell unless you have it surgically removed or something. So there's that. But again, all of this storage, it happens in the background without you even thinking about it. Insulin resistance. So what is that then? Because we're not getting rid of or adding more actual cells to our body. It's about working with the cells that we have. How responsive are those cells? How sensitive are they to a reaction? We want them to be very sensitive to a reaction. That's good. When they're not very responsive, your system is not having a reaction to an increase in increased glucose or blood sugar in the bloodstream. Insulin has to work harder to be heard. So this would be like, if you have teenage kids, you can probably relate. I have 2 teenage girls in my house right now. So get my daughter's attention. I'm going to go to her door, knock on the door, right? There's music blaring inside. She's not responding. Okay, I'm going to knock on the door again, a little bit more aggressively, right? Okay, nope, music is blaring, and I'm knocking on the door and calling her name, and finally crack open the door. Mom, what? Knock. I did multiple times, knocking like I'm trying to break down the door, actually, but you didn't hear me, wasn't responding. Okay. I'm being insulin in that scenario. And I'm not talking about this from personal experience or anything. No. Insulin is knocking at the door of the cell, right? Asking it to open up and let sugar in. Sugar needs insulin as its buddy to go into a cell. Otherwise the sugar cannot enter the cell, and the cell needs the sugar for energy, for everything else. So insulin and sugar holding hands, knocking on the door of the cell. And if it's really sensitive, it'll react and respond quickly, and it'll open that door right away. If you're insulin resistant, that means that the cell is very slow to answer. So your body does the next logical thing, right? It sends more insulin. It knocks louder, tries harder. More insulin, that'll do it. That'll get that cell to respond better. And that can work for a while, right? There is this adaptability that our bodies have, which is amazing. But it only works for a certain period of time, because then all of a sudden your system has this chronically high insulin as a reaction overall. And that is what impacts your overall waistline. Now let's talk about perimenopause, right? When we are in our 40s to early 50s, we enter that perimenopause stage, etc. This is a normal process. Estrogen does begin to decline. It begins to decrease. We would love for it to always just be a very smooth transition downward, but it doesn't always happen like that. It can be a little bit of a roller coaster, right? And so estrogen is very in tune with how reactive and sensitive those cells are to that insulin. So if estrogen is changing slowly and evenly, great, then that shift and change in those cells, that sensitivity to insulin happens in a slow, even pace. And typically you can keep up with that and recognize it. It's where estrogen changes rapidly and your body cannot adapt to it quickly. And this can be from stressors, gut issues, other inflammation, etc., right? It's usually not just estrogen's fault. I don't want to blame everything on estrogen and just like, well, sometimes that's just what happened with estrogen. I mean, it can, but what I usually find, again, from working with thousands and thousands of women, is that it's also pushed, right? Instead of like estrogen being like, oh, I'm going to walk down this nice steady slope, right? It sort of gets shoved down and tumble bumbles a little bit. What's shoving the estrogen? Stressors, life events, gut issues, etc., right? So that means that the estrogen has a little bit of a bumpy road down. And then that's going to impact that cell sensitivity overall. So that protective effect kind of fades in terms of the cell sensitivity to insulin. So that contributes to that insulin resistance. This does not mean that every woman who goes through perimenopause into menopause is going to be insulin resistant. But estrogen is a protective factor in that. And when it's varied and you have other things going on at the same time, stressors, disrupted sleep, gut issues, etc., right? That's why I want to bring that up and talk about those things all in the same conversation. I never just want to blame the fact that estrogen drops. But it does. Estrogen is a helper in that insulin sensitivity. So you can become naturally more insulin resistant. So again, this is evident in the fact that before menopause, a lot of women, if they do gain weight, you will gain weight in the hips and thighs. And then as estrogen drops, the storage moves to the belly. Now, this can mean that you are storing weight in your hips, thighs, and then belly as well. The other thing about the belly fat, the visceral fat, and keep in mind, these are cells that were there the whole time. This is not new. These are cells that were there the entire time. But having more visceral fat actually makes the insulin resistance worse. What? Yeah. It's like gas on a fire. It's not something that we want, but that is actually what happens. Adding more visceral fat makes you more insulin resistant. And then the fact that you're more insulin resistant means that your body's going to be in that storage mode more and storing more in the belly. It's Kind of like the relationship with histamine and estrogen too that I talked about in a few episodes ago. Isn't that fun? All right. Now, when we talk about this factor, this is not, oh no, this is how it is. This is the end all be all. And I guess that's how your life is now. That stinks. So too bad, so sad. Nope, no, right? The problem is that what we have been told to correct this issue, which is eat less, move more, it stops working for us. Things that worked for us in our 20s, in our 30s. I did this certain workout program. I trained for a half marathon and I never looked better, etc. I'm doing all of those same things now and none of it is working. In fact, I think it's actually making things worse for me. Yeah. Of course it is. Because putting your body in a caloric deficit while actually adding to your stress load contributes to the insulin resistance even more. And I don't argue with people in my comments on social media because it's just not worth my energy. If someone really wanted to understand why we talk about this stuff and why this is so important, besides all of the books and research and everything that I do on all this, it's not the female body and the way it changes throughout our lives, and especially in the perimenopause and menopause phase, it metabolically is different. And unless you understand that, it's not helpful to just tell a woman of that age, eat less, move more, because that's not how it impacts the female body. Plus all the studies and everything that are done that say this is exactly how the body responds metabolically, etc., are done on men, and oftentimes they're done on men in their 20s. Yeah. Yep. Also, on that same thread, sorry, I'm just going to go on a quick rant for a second because this also, it still is so unbelievable to me that people don't understand this. When they talk about nutritional recommendations for women, they, all the way from birth to about 7 or 8 years old, they're the same for like boys and girls, and then they split and they just recommend that boys get more calories and stuff overall than girls do. And that continues on, and it doesn't change. And then women are not necessarily given any additional nutrient recommendations that are different after the age of 14. I want you to let that sink in. The recommendations for women for your daily nutrient needs are based off of a 14-year-old. That's the same thing you should be eating. You have got to be kidding me. Think about yourself at 14. You weren't done growing yet. The amount of growth hormone and everything else in your body completely different than you at 44 or 54. But the overall nutrient recommendations for women are literally no different the rest of your life. Except for during pregnancy. Oh, and guess what? The recommendations for pregnancy, guess the majority of people, the group of people that they studied for that. If you're saying, oh, did they do those studies on pregnant women versus non-pregnant women? I mean, there were some of those in the study groups, but a majority of the people that were studied were men. And you are probably thinking that literally cannot be possible and that cannot be true. It is true. Like over 70% of the participants in studies like that for nutrient recommendations were men. And if you're thinking, no, what? Now, there's, again, I have these books here because I'm doing other content related to this. So this just kind of works out that I went on this little tangent right now. This is one of my favorite books. It's called Doing Harm by Maya Doonesbury, The Truth About How Bad Medicine, Lazy Science Leaves Women Dismissed, Misdiagnosed, and Sick. Boom. She has no idea who I am. Like, I talk about this book all the time. There's another one by Gabrielle Jackson, Pain and Prejudice. This is another good one. And then this one, Invisible Women, another good one, right? There are books out there, and so many women don't know that these things exist. And when you read this, and again, you can see my Doing Harm is all tabbed. These are on Audible, by the way, as well, if you don't like books. But I am always shocked at how much information is recommended for women that has actually never been studied on women. I mean, it wasn't even that long ago that they tested period products on with actual blood. Yeah, that means that for decades, however long that they've made tampons and pads and things for women who have a menstrual cycle, that they were not tested with blood. They were saying this much absorption. It says this, it absorbs this. They weren't talking about blood. And for those of us that understand the difference, there's a difference between water and blood in terms of viscosity and everything else. If you're getting mad listening to this, me too. It makes me sweaty. But this is the same thing. So when I talk about this stuff and talk about the fact that, listen, you going through perimenopause and menopause and the other factors in your life, the stress, the gut issues or whatnot, will impact your overall metabolism way more because of the estrogen dropping at the same time and the rate and the support that your body has around that estrogen dropping. And then doing the typical eat less, move more will completely backfire for you because under eating, over exercising, both of those things trigger a stress response in your system, which can spike that cortisol. And then when your cortisol, right, your stress hormone spikes, what does it do? What does that do? It raises your blood sugar. Your body thinks, oh my gosh, I'm under stress. I know what I need to do. I need more sugar in my blood. There we go. There we go. And then that increased blood sugar then will raise your insulin. That pushes you right back into fat storage. It pushes you, because insulin is a fat storing hormone. That's its job. So that means that if this is you thinking, I have done this, I have worked out harder, I have busted my butt, and I'm not getting anywhere. You're, right? You're running on a treadmill, and instead of running outside, you're not getting anywhere with it, right? I see it all the time, and all it does is wear you out more. It makes you completely exhausted. If you're eating 1,200 calories a day, and I literally, no joke, talked to, I hope she listens to this. If you're like, oh my God, she's talking about me. I am talking about you right now. This gal who, through stress and everything else in her life, had some shifts and change in her menstrual cycle. And she was like, I'm not sure if this is early perimenopause or if there's something else going on, etc. And, just some things that were really atypical. And so she booked an appointment with a very highly respected physician in her area. And that person told her, you need to walk every day for an hour and eat 1,400 calories a day. That's what's going to help you the most. And then your body and hormones are going to regulate. If you don't stick to the 1,400 calories, blah, blah, blah. And plus, why are we still talking about calories? If you're around my age, I love movies. And if you've seen Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion movie, I think it's so hilarious when she's like, you look so great, by the way. What have you been doing? Oh, thank you. I've been trying this new fat-free diet. All I've had to eat are gummy bears and gummy worms or whatever, right? She's just eating sugar. So that's why I make the joke of there's a huge difference in like 100 calories of gummy bears versus 100 calories of, almonds or eggs or something, right? Whatever. There is a huge difference in the impact on your body. It is not about calories. I mean, it sometimes can be helpful to track overall just to make sure you're getting enough. Because again, we're told that we don't need any more. 1,400 beyond the age of 14. See, this is ridiculous. And then all of a sudden you're cutting the calories and then you're working out like crazy. You're doing all this extra cardio. You're trying to build muscle and you're thinking, gosh, I've been lifting these weights, but I don't really feel any stronger. Because you should feel stronger if you're actually building muscle. You've cut out all your favorite desserts. You're not even drinking wine anymore. You're not even having creamer in your coffee. Black coffee is the best. That's how you do it. That's how you lose weight. All it does is make you exhausted. Ruins your cortisol patterns. Ruins your sleep. So you're not sleeping well. You're having these horrible cravings. And crashing in the afternoon, right? You've completely been working upstream instead of working with your body. This is not a character flaw at all. This is not you not trying hard enough. In fact, you're trying too hard and trying things that work great for a male body. For a male body, right? So the goal here is to actually work with your body. Eat for your hormones, eat for your body, and actually move your body to get stronger. And a big piece of that is fueling it differently. Once you understand this entire mechanism, the solution for this just feels so much better. It feels almost easy. And the crazy thing that I hear again and again and again from women is they're like, I feel insane. I can't believe this is happening. I'm eating more than I've eaten in years, and I'm actually losing weight. How is that possible? Because we're actually fueling your body with what it needs and working with your system instead of fighting against it, right? Because if that worked, if all it was a math equation, eat less and move more, burn this many calories and only eat this many calories, you need to be in a caloric deficit. Horsepucky. If that's all it took, everybody would be able to be at the exact weight they wanted to be at all the time, no matter what. Now, I'm not, again, for those of you that are like, oh my gosh, it worked for me. It can work for a certain period of time. It can work when you're younger, but especially when that estrogen drops. This is about the insulin sensitivity piece of it. So if you are someone who says, yeah, I am doing the math right, I'm eating less and working out more, I'm not getting, A plus B is not equaling C for me. Where am I going wrong? Where can I tinker with the numbers and the math? Stop with that. Then it becomes about your hormones in your body. That's what's most important. So what do we look at? How do I know if this is me? What do I do about this? Where do I start? I'm so glad you asked. We start with testing. And we test certain numbers that actually tell us more about what your body's doing. So glucose is really easy to measure. You can get a glucose tester, at the store, at Walgreens or Walmart or whatever. You can order it online, get it shipped right to your door. You can get a finger prick thing, test your blood sugars regularly. You can do it right away in the morning. You can test them throughout the day. You can go to the lab and get a blood draw, all these things, and you can get your glucose tested. Super easy to do. However, fun fact, glucose is often the last number to change when things go wrong. It can look completely normal or within normal ranges for years, while that insulin resistance is actually building in the background. So then what do we need to test? If I actually want to know what's happening, your insulin. You need to test a fasted insulin, but so often that gets overlooked or they won't look at it. It's not a typical lab panel that's drawn. Now, I live in Minnesota. So again, if you guys have questions on this stuff, there of course is info in the show notes. There is a metabolic testing guide that lists all these things in there. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm driving, I'm listening to this podcast, I'm driving, what do I do? I can't write this down. Go to the show notes of this episode. There is a metabolic testing guide. It has everything listed there, and it has information for you to dive into as well. Oh, that's the other thing too. I should have said this. When I'm holding up these books and I'm talking about these books that I absolutely love, these will be in the show notes too. Again, I am not connected to any of these authors. I just find the information so valuable. And if you are listening to this, you can always go to the video and look at me holding all of my books up that I love so much that I talk about all the time. So there's that. But there are resources there for you, so you don't have to worry about writing this down. It is all there in that guide, so make sure you grab it. But that insulin is so important because when your cells stop responding, your body just compensates by pumping out more insulin. So then in the early and middle stages of that insulin resistance, your blood sugar levels, your glucose levels look fine. They look normal. This is you going to the doctor saying, I'm getting fat here and I don't understand why. And they're like, I think it's my blood sugar levels. And they test your glucose and they're like, it's great. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess so. Yep, because it is going to be great. Because it's being held together by the insulin. And if you didn't look at the insulin, you're not understanding it, right? They're missing it completely. Missing it completely. Your pancreas then is working overtime to keep the glucose there. All right. The example of this, of how the pancreas works harder, pumping out that insulin to keep your blood sugar levels and your glucose levels that get tested looking fine. That would be like the thermostat in your house, right? The thermostat reads that it's 72 degrees in your house. It's perfectly comfortable, right? Perfectly comfortable. But the furnace is running full blast around the clock to keep it there. If you only look at the temperature, what the thermostat is reading, right? You have no idea the furnace is running in overdrive to keep the temperature there. The thermostat is glucose. The furnace is your insulin. This is just such a huge gap. And again, it's not hard to test. It's not difficult to do. It just is missed so often. And then you get blamed for your metabolism not working well, your dedication, your willpower, or something. The number of women that I have chatted with that have said, yeah, I have been working with a trainer. I've been doing this, that, and the other. And I have been trying X, Y, and Z and sticking to a diet plan. And they think I'm lying to them because I keep gaining weight, or my weight isn't losing. My weight isn't dropping. You're not lying to them. You're checking off every single box. You're doing what you're actually supposed to be doing. It's just not showing up in your system because the right thing isn't being measured. So, labs. Again, that guide is there for you to grab, so it's all there, but we want to look at a fasting insulin, we want to look at a fasting glucose, and we want to look at your hemoglobin A1C. Yes, now the hemoglobin A1C is the average blood sugar of about the last 3 months. So instead of just a single like snapshot of what your blood sugar is at that time, at that day, right, we get a bigger trend overall because maybe you didn't sleep well, or maybe something occurred and the glucose looks differently than it normally would. But that's where we go to the hemoglobin A1C. So it's really looking at those three numbers together that give us a picture of, okay, what's been happening in the last 3 months? What's the trend here? That's the hemoglobin A1C. What is the fat storage overall hormone? That's the insulin. And then your glucose is what your blood sugar is at that moment, right? Now, I am going to touch on muscle and protein because the best thing that you can do is build muscle in your body to help with your blood sugar balance and to help with insulin sensitivity. Now, why is this important? Your muscle is one of the largest sites in your body for the clearing of sugar out of your blood. Your muscles use that as energy, right? Your muscle is like a metabolic sponge. So the more you have, the more, we'll call it forgiving, your metabolism can be. Now, here's another thing that plays a role in women in perimenopause and menopause when it comes to muscle tissue. Estrogen helps us build and maintain our muscle and helps with muscle recovery. So when our estrogen starts to drop, it's not that we can't build muscle, it just becomes more difficult. And it can take longer. It can take longer. And that's so important then we're getting enough protein and nutrients, we're absorbing those things, and that we're also utilizing other tools that are appropriate for us. Are you doing a creatine? Are you doing some amino acids? Are you incorporating certain things around your strength training, giving your body the right stress response? I'm showing my favorite tincture right now that helps with stress that actually can have a positive impact then if you're trying to have that muscle growth happen. These are so important to group together because it's never going to be just one thing, one magic bullet thing that's going to help your body build muscle and burn fat, etc. It's a process, and it becomes a completely different process when you're in perimenopause and in menopause. It's not a bad thing, it's just different. And once you understand, oh, I just have to go about it this different way to get a result, cool. I'm a little bit slower than what it used to be, that's fine. It's not a race. As long as you know you're on your way and you're making progress, that's amazing, right? That's it. So when you have more muscle, you have more places to put that glucose. It doesn't hang out in your bloodstream then, driving the insulin up. So strength training is the most beneficial exercise you can do in perimenopause and menopause and maintaining that muscle. Muscle strength is really good for your immune system, everything else. But if all you're doing is cardio, it's working against you over time. You actually can lose that muscle and you lose that sugar clearing capacity overall. So strength training, protein pacing. And these are things I teach you how to do as well. Again, if you have more questions on this or what your markers should be, I do have a link there that you can book a call and chat with my team about that. But those are the raw materials that your body really needs. Again, women are often under eating protein so drastically for what your body needs to actually build muscle. When we talk about intaking protein and protein pacing, you need a minimum of at least 20 grams per serving to actually start building muscle tissue. And if you want to actually really build muscle tissue, there's certain formulas that people use. 1 gram for 1 pound of lean body tissue, 1.2 grams, right? What is the right number for you? What is the right next step for you? These are things that we talk about depending on what your body's doing. What's your gut absorption? That's a big piece of it. What other tools are you using? And what other things can be kind of a roadblock or getting in the way? Yeah. But we help you set up these things. And also keep in mind that especially if your system has been under stress, it's going to want to adapt to whatever you're doing as quickly as possible. So one of the tactics that I really love to teach women is that, again, as we're working on your overall function and everything, is to change your tactic. Do not keep it the same. And if you have a larger amount of weight that you want to change with your body, say 50 pounds, what you do to lose the first 25 is not going to be the same thing that you do to lose the next 25, because your body is metabolically different. Remember, fat cells are dynamic. They impact the rest of your system. So when you're looking at, I'm going to increase protein, I'm going to strength train, I'm going to make sure that I'm addressing my stress levels and sleep and everything. Fantastic. But then there's also other metabolic changes that we make to your nutrition to make sure we are pushing yourself forward as much as we can without eating less and without just doing more and more and more cardio every day, because that doesn't work. It makes a real difference. So that's what I got for you guys today. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. I know I've gotten this question a lot, and some women are so frustrated. And again, it just lit a fire in my brain about that 1 gal being told to eat 1,400 calories. Oh, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But that is what we're here to change. That is what we're here to bring awareness to. And once you know and understand what your body actually needs, and once you start to feel the difference, it changes everything. And one of the most satisfying things is when you actually start getting the right result, because your system is responding how it should. Do we talk about hormone testing and GI mapping and all that other stuff too? Yes, but at least that bare minimum start, those 3 labs that I talked about, can give you a really good picture of what your blood sugars are doing and what they've been trending in the last 3 months. That's a great place to start. And then beyond that, if you're thinking, yeah, I need help with this, I am so sick of starting over and over again, so sick of people telling me just to eat less, then there's that link where you can book a call with my team and talk about everything that you've tried, what's worked, what's not worked, and really what the best next step is for you. Every body is different. And what you need can be absolutely unique to what your system is going to respond to. And that's what we help you figure out. So that's what I got for you guys today. Again, thank you so much for being here. I love the questions that I've gotten recently. So if you feel you need to comment or question something, you can always do that. If you're not comfortable commenting, do not hesitate to reach out to me and send me an email. I get emails from women literally from all over the world every single day, because they're just like, oh, I'm afraid to ask this question. I don't want somebody to see that I posted a question. That's fine. That's fine. I guarantee you're never going to send me a question that I haven't heard before. And that you are not the first person to ask me the question that you want to ask. But I always welcome that, because the more information that you have, the more tools you have to take that next step. So Have a great rest of your night. Let me know if you need anything else, and I will see you guys next time.